Welcome to Halfchrome, I'm Jack. We do a lot of drone related content, everything from FPV to photography, and if that's your jam, you're in the right place. Today we're going to look at our 10 favorite non-DJI drones, everything from less than $100 to upwards of $2,000. So if you're interested in drones and you want to know what else is out there, stay tuned. So if you've done any research on drones, you know that there's a ton of DJI stuff out there, and almost all of the content out is on DJI drones. Why is that? Well, they have somewhere between 70 and 80% of the consumer market, so there are a lot of them out there, and they are pretty darn good. But today, we're going to focus on our 10 favorite non-DJI drones. Chris and I have gone through a list of everything we've flown, and that's a lot. And we picked out our 10 favorites. This isn't a detailed review of each one of these drones, just kind of some of the highlights and why we really like it. If you're looking for a detailed description, check the descriptions down below. We also have some affiliate links if you're looking to purchase one of these. That's how you can help support this channel. Hey, if you like the content, go ahead and give us a thumbs up and click that subscribe button. If you don't, thumb it down, tell us what we did wrong, and we'll do better next time. All right, let's get into it. Okay, at number 10, we've got the Sema X8. This is an oldie but a goodie. It's our favorite drone for less than $100. Actually, my favorite drone for less than $100 is the Rise Tello, but that's actually made by DJI. I digress. The Sema X8 is super durable. We've crashed this thing. We've chopped tomatoes with this thing. We tried to shoot this thing out of the sky with a paintball gun. It just keeps on ticking. It's a great little platform. It's actually upgradable too. So if you want to try different cameras, you can do that. This is best suited as a beginner drone, as a tool to learn how to fly. It's not going to be good for professional photography, but as a tool, it's almost indestructible. It's a great place to start. So if you're looking for something fun, but don't want to break the bank, less than $100, Sema X8 is a great place to start. Okay, number 9, we're getting into a serious drone here. That's the Autel Evo, the original. One of the best drones you can get for less than $1,000. In fact, it's probably our favorite taking 4K video for less than $1,000. This drone was built by Autel to compete directly with the Mavic lineup, and it really does that. I already mentioned the excellent 4K camera. It is really pretty darn solid, and it has a fixed focus, which is a little bit different than a whole lot of other drones out there. It has all the flight modes you'd want with a GPS drone. It is super stable, and it even has obstacle avoidance. With its 30-minute flight time and 7,000 meter range, this is a really good drone. Now, the biggest gripe I have about it is that I sometimes will see the props if I'm flying a little bit too aggressively, so you got to keep that in mind. But overall, one of the best drones you can get for less than $1,000. Okay, at number 8, the next drone on our list is the Xiaomi Femi X8 2020 edition. That's a mouthful, but this is a really good drone for less than $400. This thing is feature packed and has a flight time of up to 35 minutes and a range of 8,000 meters. Now, the camera is a 4K camera, and it's pretty darn good, but I actually prefer the 2.7K on the original Mavic Mini. The camera on the Mini is just a little bit better, has a better sensor, I believe, than this Xiaomi Femi X8. But where this thing shines is it has a whole lot more flight modes, and it's bigger, larger, and more stable in the wind. Now, there are a handful of other options in the $300, $400 price range, things like the Up Air 2, and there are a whole bunch of Xeno drones, but both of those manufacturers, I've just found the quality control isn't quite up to par, so I would go, if you're looking for something in this price range, go with this, the Xiaomi Femi X8. All right, at number 7 on our list, I actually have 2 drones. They're kind of the same thing, the MJX Bugs 12 and Bugs 20, and they're both really good options for just under $200. They're kind of the same drone, but they have a different form factor. The 12 is foldable, whereas the 20 is not. Think of Mavic versus Phantom. There's even a Holy Stone version, but that one's going to be a little bit more expensive, so I recommend sticking with the MJX 12 or 20. Now, neither one of these have a real gimbal. It's electronic image stabilization, but it does a pretty darn good job. Now, it's not quite professional quality, but you shouldn't be expecting that for less than $200. It still does decent 4K at 30 frames a second or 1080 at 60 frames a second. Now, they are GPS drones, but they are limited in their flight modes, so you get a follow me and you get an orbit and you have return to home, but that's really just about it. You can expect a range of about 500 meters and a flight time of up to 22 minutes. Both of these are good drones and definitely a step above the Sema X8 and even better than some of the other options in that price range like the Beast Pro or Beast Pro 2. Okay, number 6, I got a totally different drone. It is the Nazgul from iFlight version 2, that is. And this is an FPV drone, a 5-inch quad, if you will. And this thing really rips. DJI has been getting into FPV, but if you want to go DJI FPV, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. The iFlight Nazgul version 2 is a really good drone, and it's going to be a whole lot less expensive if you want to get into FPV. I'd recommend the 4S 2207 2750 kV motor version. It's just got the perfect amount of power if you ask me. But this isn't like your other drones. You're still going to have to buy a remote, battery, charger, and goggles. When you're flying FPV, the most important thing actually, I believe, is the remote, not the drone. You're going to use this, and this will control all of your quads. This is the Radiomaster TX16S. This is a special edition. You can learn to fly on simulators. You can control a whole bunch of drones, but the Radiomaster TX16S is the way to go. You're also going to need a set of goggles, and I really like the SkyZone O2Cs. They're probably the best value for a low-profile goggle. Now with the drone at 200, the goggles at 280, and the remote between 100 and 150, this isn't cheap. You're talking between $500 and $600 to get into it, but it's going to be a whole lot cheaper than getting into FPV with DJI. For less than $300, this is your best option. This is number 5 on my list, the Xiaomi Femi A3. This drone's a little bit different. It has a 2-axis gimbal, not a 3-axis gimbal, and it's not going to connect to your phone via Wi-Fi. There's no app involved. That's actually kind of refreshing. It's kind of nice. You control it with the remote controller, which has a built-in screen. It's a GPS drone, so it does have some of those flight modes that you're looking for: droney, orbit, follow me, return to home. And the camera on this is pretty darn good. It's an 8-megapixel camera, which will shoot 1080 video. Now our unit was set, I think, with the focus too close, so the distance wasn't quite as sharp as I'd like it to be. Something else that was interesting about this drone is the video signal that it sends back to the remote is actually analog, so you can fly this with goggles like your Fat Sharks or your SkyZones, and I actually tried that. Now the field of view is pretty darn narrow, right, which when you're flying FPV you want a wide field of view, but you can still do it. Now this has a 25-minute flight time and a range of up to 1,000 meters. Now this drone's somewhere in between $230 and $280 depending on when and where you buy it, and that's a pretty darn good deal. Definitely the best option for less than 300 bucks. All right, at number 4, this is actually the best drone you can get that isn't made by DJI if you're looking to get into photography. That is the Autel Evo 2. Now there are actually 2 versions. There's an 8K and a 6K. So you're probably wondering, if this is the best option you can get, why is it not number 1 on my list? Well, these drones are expensive, with the 8K costing about $1,500 and the 6K starting at $1,800. These drones are expensive, but they're nice. If you're looking for the best video and pictures you can get out of a drone that isn't made by DJI, it's the Autel Evo 2 6K. That's right, this 6K has a 1-inch sensor, is going to outperform the 8K all day. In fact, the 8K has the same quad bear sensor as the Mavic Air 2. And the Mavic Air 2 is like half the cost of the Autel Evo 2. So go figure. Now that 1-inch sensor really shines in low light situations. Now if you need to shoot at night, make sure you have a waiver, but it's going to be the drone for the job. And you can actually switch cameras. So if you bought an 8K and you wanted to upgrade to the 6K or even the thermal camera of the Evo, you can do that with these drones. These drones have an impressive flight time of up to 40 minutes. Now these are big drones and they really handle the wind better than pretty much any Mavic out there. You're going to get a range of about 9,000 meters out of either one of these 2 Autel Evos. I also really like the controller. Now it's the same controller that comes with the original Autel Evo, which I do actually really like. It has a built-in LCD screen so you can see what's going on if you happen to forget your smartphone. It has all the flight modes that you would come to expect, and it even has 360-degree obstacle avoidance. Did I mention I really like the camera? With its HDR and variable aperture, it really is a winner. So if you want the best that isn't DJI, it's the Autel Evo 2 6K. Okay, number 3 on my list couldn't be any more different than the last drone I told you about in the Autel Evo. This is the Meteor 65 all-in-one FPV kit from BetaFPV. You get this tiny little drone that you can fly around in your house. This is called a Tiny Whoop, and it's a whole lot of fun, especially if you live in a cold area like I do. You want one of these for the winter. The really nice thing about this kit is you get everything that you need. You get a nice remote, you get a good set of goggles, a bunch of batteries, and charger for those batteries. It's all included, plus you get that nice little carrying case. And as an added bonus, you can actually fly other drones with both the goggles and the remote. Now, flying FPV or learning how to set up a drone in FPV can be a pain. You have to figure out beta flight and all sorts of things. BetaFPV has taken that away with this kit. It's pretty much just plug and play. Now, I would highly recommend you get the largest battery package. I think you get up to 6 batteries with this, and it's worth the extra money because these batteries now, they don't last long. You're gonna go hard and fast for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then you're done. Anyway, it's a whole lot of fun to fly. Number 2 on my list is the best drone that isn't really a drone. It's this guy, it's a Skydio II. Now, yes, I know, it is a drone, but I think of it more of as an action camera that just happens to fly. This is an incredible piece of technology. The 6 4K cameras work with each other to kind of make sure that you're not going to run into any sort of obstacle. This is hands down the best obstacle avoidance drone on the market today. If you want something that's going to follow you, if you like tracking yourself, riding bikes, skateboards, things like that, this is the drone you want. This is an action camera in the air that's going to follow you everywhere you go. The camera on this is really nice, shoots 4K 60, and it even has HDR. Now, I find the HDR mode to be a little bit too, I don't know, punchy, I guess, for my likings, but some people dig that. It does take good quality pictures and video with its 12 megapixel camera. Now, this is great for following people and cars. What it's not good for is just kind of standard videography, photography, meaning that you couldn't really use this at a, say, real estate shoot because you can't do a lot of those flight modes on stationary objects. It's looking for something to follow. It uses artificial intelligence to find the subject to track. And if it's not a moving subject, it's not going to find that. Now, there are some flight modes where it will kind of fly from those stationary objects, but in my opinion, it's just not there. Plus, you can't turn the obstacle avoidance off, so you're not going to be able to get close to some of your subjects. Now, if you want to fly it manually, it's actually a lot of fun and probably the safest drone out there because you can't really crash it. Now, you could if you really were trying, but why would you do that? You can also pick up a beacon for GPS following to kind of make it just a little bit better, and that's $180. And something I don't like is it doesn't ship with remote control. You're limited to flying with your phone for less than $1,000. And that kind of, again, has less of a drone feel to it. It's just this camera that follows you around. I think in time, this really could be the DJI killer, but Skydio's got some work to do, and I think they can do it, right? They're a software company that happens to make drones, and a lot of the limitations of this thing are software-based. There's that, plus they can't make these things fast enough. Get one of these things as a process. You had to put a deposit down, you got to wait, and when they fill that queue, who knows? So yeah, the Skydio II is fantastic. It is really good at some things, but it's not really good at just kind of being a drone. Now, if you have the remote control, which costs you another $180, you're gonna get a range of up to 3,500 meters, and you'll get a flight time of up to 23 minutes. Now, in the end, I think this really will be an even better drone. It's still pretty darn good, but software is gonna get better, this drone's gonna get better. All right, so some of these things I'm looking for the Skydio are already happening. Skydio is making this a better drone right now. Today, in fact, they just released the Skydio Autonomy Enterprise Foundation. Basically, they're giving this drone more abilities. You can fly closer to subjects. You can orbit a stationary object. I think it's just a matter of time before this becomes my favorite non-DJI drone. Actually, I think it's just a matter of time before this becomes my favorite drone. Now, I have a feeling a lot of people aren't going to like my #1 choice. Now, my favorite non-DJI drone is actually the Parrot Anafi. And not because it's the best. A lot of those other drones do better things, right? The Evo 2, better camera. Skydio, better tracking. Sema, better durability. BetaFPV, more fun. But this kind of does everything really darn well. If you're looking for a DJI drone to compare it to, it's like the Mini, right? The Mini series. In fact, I would say it's superior to the original. And the jury's kind of out on the Mini too. But I really like this camera. This 21 megapixel camera has a full 180 degrees travel. Now that is not something you'll find on really very many other drones at all, and certainly not on a DJI product. This was also the very first drone to offer real zoom, and that's a game changer. You know, I really like being able to get closer to my subject without having to move my drone closer to the subject, especially if there's obstacles like trees and branches in the way. It's great to just be able to zoom in. Now this camera does have some limitations because it is just on a 2-axis gimbal, but it does stabilize the 3rd axis electronically. I've really been a fan of the Parrot flight modes. It's got a bunch of them, and they're a whole lot more intuitive, and I actually think they work better than most of DJI's, especially the follow me modes. Parrot has also been working with third-party companies like Pix4D. You can get a really good deal with the Parrot and Pix4D software subscription. So if you're looking to do mapping, this is a pretty fun option. Now the Parrot anafi has a flight time of about 25 minutes and a range of about 4,000 meters. So if you ask me, I'd take this over the Mini, but it still probably falls short of the Mavic Air 2. Now it's also going to be cheaper than the Mavic Air 2, where the Parrot anafi is going to come in right around $500, $550, depending on which package you choose. Now, if you want a more detailed description or review of these drones, make sure you check the video description down below. Now, a quick note on the specs that I was mentioning, those were manufacturer specs. So things like flight time and range, you can probably expect to get about 80% of the manufacturer's numbers, but I wanted to give you a good baseline to start. So if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and activate notifications so you don't miss any videos or upcoming live streams. So we also have a Patreon, and once a month we're giving away a free drone to a lucky Patreon subscriber. Don't forget about our website, halfchrome.com, where we have everything from photography to FPV. So if you're looking for more information on this drone or any drone, it's there for you. And make sure you check the video description down below because we have links. They are affiliate links, and that's how you can help support this channel. At no cost to you, you get one of these awesome products, and it helps the channel out. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them down below. Did we get something wrong? Let us know. We'll catch you next time. Good luck and happy flying.